All right. If you are watching this video, this means that you have already answered the questions. And if you haven't, I am strongly encouraging you to stop this video, answer the questions, and then come watch this video. Because that's the only way we can learn how to find our answers on our own is if we try first and then get our feedback second. So consider this your feedback video. So we are answering the questions. And you'll see I've circled unearthed here because we did not come across the word unearthed in the text. Rather, it was in the title. So that's where we needed to find unearthed for the one question. So let's take a look at our questions. The first one asks, Thomas Paine and Abraham Lincoln had all of the following in common except they were both born in the United States, they were both in politics, they both had challenging childhoods, they both learned to work as children. So again, we're looking for the wrong answer. So there are things in here that we can rule out that they have in common. Right away, I think about how they both grew up in hard times. You know, and he had a with Thomas Paine. We wrote bad news over here on the side. He was born in a small town near London where his family was poor. He had to leave school so he could work. So we know that they both had challenging childhoods. So that means we can eliminate letter C. They both learned to work as children. I just read here for Thomas Paine that he had to leave school at the age of 13. So he had a job as a child. And then same with Lincoln. He worked on the farm from a young age, which means that he started the job when he was young. So it cannot be this one since we're looking for the wrong answer. This leaves us with they were both born in the United States and they were both in politics. Well, we already know right off the bat that Abraham Lincoln was in politics. He was our president. He ran for the Illinois government. We know all of this. If we look at Thomas Paine, we know that he was also into politics because he wrote a novel that started a war. So he was definitely in politics. So our answer is actually letter A. And the reason being because we know that Abraham Lincoln was born. It actually doesn't say here that he was born in the United States, but it does say that Thomas Paine was born near London. London is not in the United States. London is over in Britain or England. So that's why our answer is A. They were both born in the United States is the wrong answer. Letter B. Abraham Lincoln once held a job as a librarian, as a teacher, building railroads, or painting road signs. Well, we had that page where we highlighted a whole bunch of Lincoln's jobs. Here's his several jobs. Farmed, sailed, clerk, new store, post office, surveyor, settled land disputes, filed legal papers, worked on elections, a mill, railroad tracks, Illinois House seat, practiced law. While reading through all those jobs, I did not hear librarian. I did not hear teacher. I did, however, hear that he built a railroad track. And I did not hear anything about painting road signs. So number 2 would be C, building railroads. Number 3, Abraham Lincoln never lost an election, was elected to the Illinois House of Representatives, was an Indiana congressman, or never worked in Washington, D.C. before he became president. So let's take a look here. Never lost an election sticks out to me right away because we actually put that in here. I underlined it up here, that this time he ran for a seat in the Illinois House of Representatives and he lost. So he lost that election. So that means that A is not true. He has lost elections. Was elected in the Illinois House of Representatives. If we go back down here, we see Lincoln ran again for the Illinois House seat. This time he won. So that means that it should and could be letter B, but you always want to check and eliminate your other options if you have the time. So, and we do have the time. Was an Indiana congressman. Doesn't say that he was in Indiana. It says he was in Illinois. So we can cross out C. He was not an Indiana congressman. And then letter D, never worked in Washington, D.C. before he became president. Well, If he was on the House of Representatives, that is also located in Washington, D.C. He won an election that took him there, and that was before he was president. So we know that it can't be letter D, and we'd already found that it is B. He was elected to the Illinois House of Representatives. Number 4, unearthed means. The word unearthed was in our title, American History Unearthed, Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Paine. Let's eliminate some answers. Unearthed means clean off. In this case, when they're talking about unearthed, they are not talking about that we went and found something that was covered in dirt under the ground that we had to, find and dig deep. So we didn't have to clean anything off, which means we also didn't have to bury nothing was buried under the ground. We don't mean an actual physical unearthed. So we're in between not on this planet and discovered. And we can definitely eliminate not on this planet because we talked about the United States, which is on Earth. So it would be C, discovered. We are discovering the truth about Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Paine. Number 5, Abraham Lincoln was not a very good postmaster because he was mean to his customers. He left the post office to deliver mail to shut-ins. He stole stamps for his own use, or he couldn't read the addresses on envelopes. Well, let's go to the section about him being a postmaster. That would be right here, the second paragraph. There's a lot of things they tell us about him working at the post office. They say he was too nice. If he was too nice, that definitely does not match with that he was mean. If he was too kind, he would not be mean. It says here that, he would leave the post to give the mail to people who wouldn't leave their house, which is super nice, but not necessarily good for the job. So he left the post office to deliver mail to shut-ins. It never says anything that he stole the stamps. He did not. Those other people may have, but he did not. And he couldn't read the addresses on envelopes. Back on the very first page of our text, we saw that he taught himself how to read. So we know he knows how to read. So it would be B. He left the post office to deliver mail to shut-ins, because it also says it right here. So we've answered questions 1 through 5. Now we're going to questions about Thomas Paine. So I'm going to get rid of this page as well. And we're going to answer these questions. So number 6, Thomas Paine was born in London into a rich family in the same town as Abraham Lincoln or after Abraham Lincoln. We can eliminate some things right off the bat. We've already talked about how his childhood was not good and that he grew up in a poor family. We can eliminate that he was rich. We know that they were not born in the same town because in that other question sheet we said that they were not both born in the United States. So that leaves us with in London and after Abraham Lincoln. And we looked at that sentence and we have it underlined right here that he was born in a small town near London. So he was definitely born in London. It wouldn't be after Abraham Lincoln because Abraham Lincoln was the president during slavery. Thomas Paine lived when the United States wasn't even a country yet. So he was definitely born before Abraham Lincoln. Thomas Paine was an American hero at the end of his life after he fought in the Revolutionary War because his writings sparked the Revolutionary War or because he supported the North in the Civil War. We know it's not at the end of his life. That whole last paragraph talks about how nobody liked him at the end. So at the end of his life, he would not be a hero. That's for sure. I have circled right here that his writing common sense sparked the Revolutionary War, which matches the exact wording with letter C here, that because his writing sparked the Revolutionary War. It never talks about him fighting in the war himself. And if he lived during Revolutionary War times, he was definitely not alive during the Civil War. So that eliminates letter D and gives us letter C, that his writing sparked the Revolutionary War. Thomas Paine wrote for a magazine called the Pennsylvania Times short stories about the Revolutionary War, speeches for Abraham Lincoln, or a pamphlet called Common Sense. We've already talked about this many times. Lincoln and Paine did not live at the same time, so he could not write speeches for him. We circled over here, he wrote Common Sense, which was a pamphlet rather than a book. So that gives us support for letter C here, that he wrote the pamphlet called Common Sense. Here he edited the Pennsylvania magazine. Editing is not the same thing as writing for it, so we can eliminate that. And like I said, we already found the Common Sense right here, so even though we haven't eliminated B, we can see right from our text that he wrote Common Sense. Number 9, Thomas Paine was saved from death row or execution. That was on the next page. We highlighted it and put a star by it. He said the king should not be killed. He was put in jail. He was put on death row. Ooh, just because he disagreed with the king. That's crazy. So let's take a look here. Thomas Paine was saved from death when an earthquake destroyed the prison he was in, by a French ambassador to America, by an American ambassador to France, or by Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin, when we talked about him, that was on this page over here, how Benjamin Franklin liked Paine. So we know it was not him who freed him. They also didn't talk about any kind of natural disaster in this article, so we know it's not the earthquake destroying a prison, which leads us to two very confusing answers. We have the French ambassador in America or the American ambassador in France. So this goes back to where he was living at the time, Paris, which is in France. And he said the king should not be killed. Which means he disagreed with the French. And it also says here that an American ambassador helped him. So that gives us letter C, that the American ambassador was in France that helped save him. And then our last question. Thomas Paine was not popular at the time of his death because we did not win the Revolutionary War. People disagreed with his beliefs. People did not like his wife, or he was mean to his neighbors. I never heard anything about his wife in this entire article, so we're just going to go ahead and eliminate that right away. I hope you guys know that we won the Revolutionary War, because if we had lost it, we would not be the United States of America. So we definitely won that war and not lost it, so we can eliminate A. So we are between two answers: disagreed with his beliefs or was mean to his neighbors. I hadn't heard anything about his neighbors, so I feel like we can eliminate D, but also we can find proof about letter B right here, because it says people did not like his ideas. And if you don't like somebody's ideas, you're probably going to disagree with them. So people disagreed with his beliefs. All right, I hope you guys followed along to the video. I hope you answered the questions on your own first. Honor system here, I'm trusting you. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys on Friday if you choose to Zoom.